Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are transporting ourselves, mentally at least, to the freezing cold, windswept streets of Chicago. It is January 31st, 2026. And while the wind chill is probably, 20 below inside the world of real estate marketing, things are heating up in a very specific, very interesting way.
It really is a fascinating moment to be looking at this market. If you think back to the chaos of the early 2020s, the landscape today is, well, it's almost unrecognizable.
Right.
We've shifted into what the data is calling a quality-first environment.
Which is really just a polite way of saying that buyers have become incredibly picky. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
The days of waiving inspections and throwing cash at anything with a roof are long, long gone.
Completely gone. Inventory is up, interest rates have stabilized, and buyer behavior has become hyper-rational. They are taking their time. They're scrutinizing everything. And because there's more inventory, the competition isn't just about price anymore. It's about storytelling.
Right. And looking at this stack of research we have today, there is a central hook that I think frames this entire conversation just perfectly.
Okay.
In 2026, the first inspection of a home, it doesn't happen when you unlock the front door.
No, absolutely not. That first inspection happens weeks before. It happens in milliseconds, usually on a smartphone screen, probably while someone is waiting for their coffee or
writing the L.
Exactly, writing the L.
And the stakes are just brutal. If that visual doesn't trigger an immediate visceral emotional response,
you're gone.
Swipe left. Gone. You don't get a second chance to explain that the basement has, great potential.
That's the reality. So today we are unpacking a strategy that insiders are calling the architecture of immersion. And we're going to focus heavily on a company called Repropix. That's Repropix.
Repropix, okay.
They've positioned themselves not just as like a photography vendor, but as the premier provider of the visual foundation you need to survive in this market.
And we aren't just talking about nice photos of living rooms. We're talking about how you take those crystal clear Repropix visuals and combine them with the latest AI tools, specifically Google VO3 and Canva, to basically hack the buyer's brain.
It sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But it is deeply, deeply grounded in cognitive psychology. We are going to look at how Repropix provides the visual truth of the property.
The truth, I like that.
And how agents are using these new AI tools to build an emotional story on top of that truth.
So let's start with the why. Why is this digital first inspection so critical? Is it just that we all have short attention spans now?
Well, it's deeper than attention span. It's about the economy of attention. We are living in a state of just total visual saturation. The research we have here shows that the human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text.
60,000. That is wild.
It makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, We evolved to scan our environment instantly for threats or opportunities. So you feel a visual before you even intellectually understand what you were looking at.
Wow.
Before you read 3-bedroom, 2-bath, your limbic system has already decided if this is a place where you belong.
So if the lead photo is bad, the data literally doesn't matter. My brain has already moved on.
Precisely. And this triggers a very specific psychological mechanism called anchoring bias.
Okay, let's unpack that anchoring bias.
The very first piece of information you receive, in this case, the hero shot of the listing, it sets the baseline for how you perceive everything that follows.
Okay.
If that first image is dark or the angles are weird or it just feels flat, the buyer subconsciously labels the property as a fixer-upper or maybe a budget option.
Even if the price tag's $1 million.
Especially then. You cannot unring that bell. Once you've anchored them low, you are fighting this uphill battle to convince them it's a luxury property.
But if you anchor them high?
If you anchor them high with a stunning, perfectly lit visual, they view every subsequent flaw with forgiveness. They want to like it.
That makes total sense. Now, there's another term in the notes here that I hadn't seen apply to real estate before, but I love the concept. Mirror neurons. How did that fit into a listing photo?
This is where high-quality photography really does the heavy lifting, and why Repropix's specific style is so effective. Mirror neurons are brain cells that fire both when we act and when we observe someone else acting.
So kind of like monkey see, monkey do.
In a way, yeah. When you look at a really high-quality photo of a sun-drenched reading nook or a chef's kitchen with a coffee steaming on the counter, your brain isn't just processing shapes and colors.
It's doing something more.
It is actually simulating the act of sitting in that nook.
So my brain is rehearsing living there.
Exactly. You mentally move in before you've ever stepped foot in the house. But And this is key. It only works if the image has psychological realism.
Meaning it has to look real, not like a cartoon or some heavily filtered Instagram post.
Right. If the lighting is blown out, where the windows are just white squares, or if the shadows are crushed and black, your brain hits a snag. It says, this is an image, not this is a place. And this is why Repropix pushes their crystal clear standards so hard. They use high dynamic range, or HDR.
I see HDR everywhere on TV settings, but what does it mean practically for a house photo?
In photography, it means capturing the scene the way the human eye sees it. Our eyes are amazing at seeing detail in a dark corner and a bright window at the same time.
Cameras are usually terrible at that.
Exactly. Repropix balances the light and shadow so there is zero cognitive friction. Your brain doesn't have to work to understand the space, so it goes straight to that emotional simulation.
There is one more psychological concept here that I think is fascinating. The Proust effect.
Ah, yes. Named after Marcel Proust and the Madeleine cookie.
Right.
Usually it refers to smell triggering memory, but in visual marketing, it refers to narrative-driven content. The data says that narrative content increases memorability by up to 22%.
So instead of just showing a room, you are showing a moment.
Correct. You aren't selling 200 square feet of drywall. You are selling the memory of a future Sunday morning. That is what sticks in the buyer's mind when they are scrolling through 50 listings a day.
Okay, so Repropix gives us this high-fidelity visual foundation. But looking at their service suite, it seems like in 2026, just having nice still photos is, well, it's not enough anymore.
It has to be more. You need a multimodal approach. Let's look at the drone data, for example. One stat jumped out at me immediately. Homes with aerial photos sell 68% faster.
68%. That's a massive number. Why does a view from the sky change the timeline that much?
Context. Especially in a complex market like Chicago or the suburbs. You aren't just buying the house, you're buying the proximity to Lake Michigan or the park down the street.
Or how close you are to the train station.
Exactly. If I have to toggle between the listing and Google Maps to figure out where the house is, you've lost me. Drone footage answers those context questions instantly.
It removes the friction. It keeps me in the story.
It does. Then you have the 3D Virtual Tours Matterport, Zillow 3D Home. This is all about dwell time.
Okay.
A user stays on a listing 2 to 3 times longer if they can click through a 3D tour.
It's sticky content.
It is. But I think the unsung hero in the Repropix suite, and something they seem to be doing better than anyone else right now, is the virtual staging.
I have to be honest, I've seen some terrible virtual staging, like floating sofas, weird proportions. It can look really uncanny.
It can, for sure. But when it's done well, and Repropix seems to have nailed the lighting integration, it creates those lifestyle vignettes we were just talking about.
Right.
It increases click-through rates by 20 to 25%. If I see an empty room, I see work. I have to buy furniture. If I see a staged room, I see a life.
And then there are floor plans. Surprisingly, 58% of Tom agents say floor plans are a must-have. I'm definitely in that camp. I'm a floor plan nerd.
Me too. Photos are emotional. Floor plans are logical. I need to know if the kitchen connects to the dining room or if I have to walk through a hallway. It helps you visualize the flow.
So true.
And Repropix turns all of this around. Photos, drone, floor plans in 24 to 48 hours.
Which is crucial. In a market where inventory is finally moving again, speed to market is currency. And I noticed one detail about licensing that stood out.
The rights.
Yeah, they give agents full rights to the photos.
That seems like a small detail until you try to use a listing photo for a billboard or a recap video 6 months later and realize you don't own it.
Right.
Repropix's motto is exhibit excellence, and giving the agent ownership of the assets is a big part of that partnership mentality. They aren't just a vendor, they're providing you with assets you own.
So we have the photos, the drone shots, the floor plans, that's the baseline. But we need to pivot to the 2026 landscape because the way we consume this content has changed fundamentally.
We need to talk about vertical video.
The death of landscape mode.
Pretty much. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. The data is just undeniable. 70% of YouTube viewing is now mobile. If you are shooting horizontal, cinematic, widescreen videos only, you are ignoring how people physically hold their phones. You are asking them to rotate their screen, which, believe it or not, is a friction point people just won't accept anymore.
And the stats on video effectiveness are absurd. Listings with video get 403% more inquiries.
403%. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And they sell 31% faster.
But here is the problem I want to dig into.
Right.
The sources mention something called a luxury explosion in Chicago. There are a lot of million-dollar homes hitting the market, but they are sitting there.
Right.
The average time on market is creeping up to 56 days.
Stalled listings. It's the nightmare scenario for an agent.
So what do? The house is sitting for 2 months. The listing is stale. People have seen the photos. They've scrolled past. You can't really ask the sellers to pack up and leave so you can shoot the whole house again.
No, that burns bridges. This is where the strategy shifts to digital asset management. Repropix provides the source material, the high-quality anchor, but the agent needs to treat those photos as raw materials to be repurposed.
And this brings us to the most advanced part of our deep dive, the tech stack. How do we take a static Repropix photo and bring it to life using AI? Specifically, the notes mention Google, VO3, and Canva.
This is where it feels like magic. So VO3 or VO 3.1 in some beta versions is a generative video model. But unlike the early AI video tools from a few years ago that were glitchy and weird.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
VO3 understands film grammar.
Film grammar.
It knows what a dolly shot is. It knows what golden hour lighting looks like. It understands physics. And it has this incredible feature called image to video.
Okay, walk us through the workflow. I'm an agent. I have a stalled listing. I have a beautiful Repropix photo of the kitchen. What do we do?
You take that crystal clear Repropix photo, the one with the perfect lighting, and you upload it to VO3. Then you prompt the AI to add movement. You don't ask it to change the kitchen. You ask it to change the atmosphere.
So you could say something like, make steam rise from the coffee cup.
Exactly.
Really?
Or gentle camera push in. Or sunlight shifting across the island. Suddenly, that static image is an 8-second looping video clip. It catches the eye, it stops the scroll.
And you aren't lying about the property.
No, the kitchen is real, the lighting is real. You are just adding atmospheric elements that trigger those mirror neurons we talked about earlier.
And you can do this for the neighborhood too, right? The notes mention synthetic B-roll.
Yes. This is a massive budget saver. Let's say the house is near a great park. You didn't have the budget to hire a film crew to go shoot generic footage of the park on a Tuesday morning.
Right.
You can ask VO3 to generate cinematic shot of a dog walking in a park with autumn leaves, Chicago style.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful with the prompting, right? You can't just say, show me a park.
No. Garbage in, garbage out. VO3 needs direction. There is a specific formula mentioned in the sources that I think every listener should write down if they want to try this.
Let's hear it. What's the secret sauce?
The formula is cinematography plus subject plus action plus context plus style.
Okay, let's break that down with a real example. Let's say I want to animate a Repropix photo of a living room. How do I construct that prompt?
Okay, so a bad prompt is show a modern living room. The AI will just guess and it'll look generic.
Right.
A good prompt using the formula would be cinematic medium shot, that's the cinematography, of a sun-drenched modern living room with a fireplace. That's the subject.
Okay.
Dust motes dancing in the light. That's the action. Overlooking a snowy Chicago street. Context. Warm, cozy, high-end ambiance, 4K resolution. That's the style.
Dust motes dancing in the light. That's the detail that makes it feel real.
It is. It creates texture. It triggers a memory. And because you are starting with the Repropix photo as your base for the interior shots, you know the room geometry is accurate. You aren't hallucinating a window where there isn't one.
You're just animating the light in the air.
Exactly.
So we have these 8-second clips generated by VO3. Now what? We can't just post 8 seconds of steam rising.
That's where Canva comes in as the assembly line. Canva has integrated all these AI tools into their magic design suite. You take the drone shot from Repropix, the animated kitchen shot from VO3, maybe that synthetic shot of the dog in the park.
And you stitch them together.
You stitch them together, add some music.
Add some music, yeah.
Apply your brand kit so your fonts and colors are consistent, and boom, you have a 60-second vertical video for TikTok or Reels.
And it looks like a high-end production that used to cost thousands of dollars.
But it's mostly built from the original photo package and some clever AI prompting. It creates a visual signature. If an agent does this consistently, buyers start to recognize their listings instantly. They see that quality and they stop scrolling.
This brings up a really important point about trust. We are talking about AI-generated steam, synthetic dogs, enhanced lighting. Is there a danger here? Where is the line between emotional storytelling and, well,
Lying.
Yeah, lying.
But there is always a tension there. In 2026, buyers are savvy. They crave authenticity. They are skeptical of fake. And that is why the Repropix Foundation is non-negotiable.
Because the source material is real.
Correct. The Repropix photo is the ground truth. If you use AI to fix a hole in the drywall, that is unethical. That is fraud.
Right.
But if you use AI to show what the room feels like at sunset or to add a fire in the fireplace, that is storytelling. You are helping the buyer visualize the potential.
It's a fine line, but a distinct one. One is altering the product, the other is altering the presentation.
Exactly. And consistency builds that trust. We call it the mere exposure effect. If I see your brand over and over and the quality is always high, always that crisp Repropix look, always that smooth VO motion, my brain learns to trust you.
I assume you're a professional.
I assume you're a professional.
Yeah.
The sources also talk about using data to sell, not just showing the pretty picture, but wrapping it in facts. They call it the narrative architecture of facts.
Right.
This is for the caption or the voiceover. You don't just post the photo. You use a hook, proof, and resolution.
Give me an example of how that sounds in practice.
Okay, the hook. You ask a question. Why did this home sell in 48 hours? The proof. You show the visual evidence, the Repropix HDR photo, plus a data point like, homes with professional photography sell 32% faster.
Okay.
And then the resolution, call me to list your home.
It turns the agent from just a salesperson into an expert. You're showing your work.
Exactly. You're validating the buyer's emotional response with logic. They fall in love with the photo, that's the emotion, and then you give them the logic to justify that feeling.
Humans buy on emotion and justify with logic.
This strategy hits both sides of the brain.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for the listener, whether they are an agent, a seller, or just someone obsessed with real estate?
It means that the standard has been raised. Good enough is dead. In a market like 2026 Chicago, where buyers are drowning in options, you have to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
Repropix provides the truth of the property, the high-quality visual data. But tools like VO3 and Canva allow you to amplify that truth into a story.
We aren't just selling walls and windows. We're selling a feeling.
We are selling a future. We are selling the Sunday morning coffee, the walk in the park, the family dinner, and we are doing it through a screen in 8-second bursts.
It's fascinating how technology is making the process more human, in a way, by focusing on the feeling of living there rather than just the square footage.
That's the irony of AI. When used correctly, it allows us to communicate emotion more effectively than we could with just a static blueprint.
So here's a final thought to Taiwan. We've talked about how incredible these digital presentations are becoming. The tours are immersive, the photos are hyper-realistic, the video feels like a movie.
It's the architecture of immersion.
Right. So in an age of infinite, perfect AI content, the most valuable asset might actually become the verified reality of the physical home. But, and here's the question I want to leave everyone with, if your digital presentation is absolutely flawless, if the first inspection on the phone is a 10 out of 10, does the physical inspection just become a formality?
That is the billion-dollar question.
Are we moving toward a world where we buy homes the way we buy shoes on Amazon, trusting the digital twin more than our own eyes?
If the digital twin is accurate enough, and if the Repropix visual standard is met, maybe we do.
Something to think about next time you're scrolling through listings on the train. A huge thank you to Repropix for being the case study of this visual revolution.
And for setting the standard.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.